Ruby's hands were trembling. The dim office light cast shadows on the scattered papers atop the desk, dancing across the walls. It was past midnight, and the office, stripped of its usual grey monotony, felt like a theatre stage. Leaning against the boss's desk, Ruby took a deep breath. She unbuttoned her grey suit, let her hair fall to her shoulders, and glanced at the small mirror on the desk. In her reflection, she saw years of weariness, but also a spark. "No more fear," she whispered, "only life." A few hours earlier, the doctor's cold words still echoed in her ears. "Cancer, Ruby. 6 months, maybe a year." At 35, living alone with her 2 cats, this wasn't an end for Ruby. It was a beginning. She'd spent her life avoiding risks, wearing grey suits, sipping the same plain coffee every morning, and enduring her boss's endless scolding. But now things were different. In her hand was a crumpled piece of paper, her bucket list. Her heart pounded with excitement. First item, damage the boss's car. Second item, confess your feelings to John. John. The quiet, shy accountant in the office, always adjusting his shirt collar, forgetting sugar in his coffee, but carrying a spark in his eyes. Ruby had noticed that spark for years. On John's desk sat an old photo, a younger, smiling John with a surfboard. That free spirit had haunted Ruby's dreams, but she'd never dared act on it. Until today. The door creaked open. John walked in, arms full of files, and froze when he saw Ruby at the boss's desk. "Ruby, what are you doing here? And why those clothes?" Ruby's eyes gleamed, a mischievous smile curling her lips. "John, life's short, too short, and I'm done waiting." John's eyebrows shot up. "Waiting? Ruby, what are you talking about?" She rose from the desk and approached him slowly. Her steps were steady, but her heart felt like it might burst. "I love you, John, and tonight, here, I want to risk everything." John's face flushed, and the files slipped from his hands, scattering across the floor. "Ruby, isn't this too fast?" But the fire in her eyes melted his objections. "Too fast? John, this might be my last night. I want to spend it with you." In that moment, the office transformed into a scene of love. Ruby and John, starting with a wild dance at the boss's desk, opened their hearts to each other. Ruby's courage stunned John, but also captivated him. That night, between the grey office walls, 2 hearts connected. But Ruby's bucket list wasn't just about romance. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the office windows, Ruby and John stood in front of the boss's luxury car. A deep scratch gleamed on its hood. Ruby, holding a key, laughed under John's stunned gaze. "Why?" he asked, both terrified and enchanted. Ruby shrugged. "Because the boss is a jerk. He's been berating and belittling us for years, and because I wanted to know I could." When John learned about Ruby's cancer diagnosis, his heart sank. "I'm so sorry, Ruby. I didn't know." But Ruby touched his shoulder, her eyes shining with resolve. "Don't be sorry. Just come with me. Help me make my life colorful." John hesitated, but Ruby's energy was infectious. "Okay," he said finally, "but first we need to hide this car. If the boss sees it, we're both fired." That day, they towed the car to a back alley and covered it with a tarp. But when the boss, Mr. Harris, arrived and noticed the empty garage, he roared, "Where's my car?" His face red with fury. Ruby and John hid behind their desks, stifling giggles, though fear lingered beneath. Harris stormed through the office, but the car remained unfound. Ruby whispered to John, "This alone is an adventure. Let's move to the next item." The next item on Ruby's bucket list was one of her wildest ideas: learn the art of cutting the world's most poisonous fish. They booked plane tickets to join a special fugu fish workshop led by a chef from Japan. On the plane, Ruby gazed at the clouds through the window and turned to John. "You know, I've never left the country. I was stuck in my little apartment with my 2 cats. But now I'm free." The workshop in Tokyo was held in a narrow alley inside a traditional restaurant. The chef, a stern-looking man, wielded his knife with such mastery that Ruby was mesmerized. When she held the knife, her eyes sparkled. "This fish could kill with 1 bite, John, but I'm not afraid." John admired her courage but was also worried. "Ruby, please be careful. There's still so much on your bucket list." During the workshop, Ruby accidentally slipped the knife, dropping a poisonous piece onto the plate. John shouted in panic, "Ruby, stop!" But Ruby laughed, pushing the plate aside. "Don't worry, I'm not eating it. But this feeling, this adrenaline, this is living." John was swept up in her wild energy. In that moment, he realized Ruby wasn't just a patient, she was a storm embracing life in all its rawness. The chef smiled at her bravery and gifted her a special knife. "Your spirit is like a samurai's," he said. As days passed, Ruby and John's adventures grew wilder. One night, they sneaked into an abandoned amusement park. Amid rusty rails and broken lights, they climbed the Ferris wheel. At the top, under the stars, they danced. Ruby, spinning in John's arms, whispered, "You know, as a kid, I was terrified of places like this, but now everything feels possible." Another day, they soared through the sky on a paraglider. Ruby shouted as the wind hit her face, "John, I'm alive with you!" John squeezed her hand, his heart pounding. "Me too, Ruby, me too." In that moment, he realized he'd left his own fears behind. For years, he'd been stuck at his accounting desk, postponing dreams. But Ruby was teaching him to dream again. Yet, like all beautiful things, their wild adventure faced a shadow. One morning, Ruby received an envelope from the hospital. New test results. "I don't want to open it," she said, her voice trembling. "What if it's bad news? What if I only have a week left?" John held her hand, his eyes resolute. "Ruby, no matter how much time you have, I'm here, and I want to live every moment with you." They opened the envelope together. The doctor's note was clear. A mistake was made, not cancer, a benign tumor, treatable. Ruby's eyes filled with tears, not of fear but of joy. "John, I'm alive, truly alive." John smiled, hugging her tightly. And this time, not just for a bucket list, but for always. That night in the hospital room, Ruby and John began planning their future. Ruby retired her grey suits forever. John set aside his accounting ledgers, deciding to travel the world with her. But first they had to deal with the boss's car. Mr. Harris had found it and was interrogating the office like a detective. Ruby and John returned to the office, sharing guilty giggles. When Harris caught them, Ruby stepped forward boldly. "Yes, I scratched your car because you've made our lives hell for years. And you know what? I'm not sorry." Surprisingly, Harris's anger faded. "Ruby, you've changed," he said, stunned. "And your honesty, it's impressive." Shockingly, he didn't fire them. Perhaps Ruby's courage made him question his own grey world. Their first stop was back to the Fugu chef's restaurant in Japan, not to eat the fish, but to embrace each other and celebrate being alive. The chef recognized them, offering a glass of sake with a smile. "Life is like fugu," he said. "Dangerous, but in the right hands, it becomes a work of art." In her final YouTube video, Under Tokyo's Neon Lights, Ruby said, "Life isn't lived without taking risks, but the greatest risk is being afraid to love. I wasn't afraid. And with John, I turned every moment into an adventure. Don't be afraid. Because who knows, maybe tomorrow your own bucket list begins."